if indeed Liverpool, and it's an allegation, welcome to One-2-One with Simon Jordan, another episode. Keep liking and keep subscribing, and of course, keep leaving your questions in the comment section below. But let's crack on now. Look, this allegation, as it stands at this moment in time, of an increased level of false positives with Liverpool, which got them to have games off, it was always going to be the landscape. The moment the Premier League acquiesced to the demands from the managers that they must know specifically and explicitly why a game gets called off, then you'd have these slew of games. Before, when it was ambiguous, it was not so easy to understand how to get games off. If Liverpool have manipulated the situation, and believe me when I tell you that nothing would surprise me about any football club. When you've got clubs that manipulate their way around the financial fair play, why wouldn't you assume that in a situation where games are coming thick and fast and the narrative is we're playing too many games, that if an opportunity gets you to be able to postpone some of these games, then you'd take it. If indeed Liverpool, and it's an allegation, if indeed Liverpool have proven to manipulate the system and have been disingenuous, then there must be consequences. But those that are shouting about it must entirely make sure that their back garden is swept clean as well, because I don't think that if Liverpool have done it, other clubs won't have done it as well. So whilst I'd rather not be politically correct, I'm going to reserve my observation on the basis of that it's an allegation and an insinuation, but if they are guilty of it, then of course there needs to be a consequence. Marcus Rashford has always been an enigma for me, because he isn't the player that the media have made him into. He's a very, very good footballer, but he isn't as good as people have made him out to be, which then sets a false standard. So when he goes through levels at times where he isn't at the level you want him to be at, then people are judging him by a set of standards that probably aren't realistic. But when you look at Marcus Rashford and explicitly you look at him after the Aston Villa game, there's a kid, a young man, and people can talk about his outside football activity as if it's some sort of barrier to entry for his performances on the pitch. That's nothing to do with it. Marcus Rashford seems to be all over the place at this moment in time. He seems to be a player that is either struggling with the current regime, or struggling with form, or struggling with things that are being said to him, or lacking confidence, or just fundamentally unhappy with the world. But you look at the idea that Rashford, and this is Man United in terms of a global observation on Man United, including Rashford. Rashford wanted to play in the European Championships. He had an injury that needed to be attended to. The club allowed him to play in the European Championship and not be operated on. And then after the European Championships, the club allowed him to have another 2 weeks holiday before having an operation and dealing with the principal issue of playing for his club. If you don't focus the minds of some of these young players about where they really need to be, then maybe you'll start to see under-aroused players that have got a disposition on the pitch which isn't right, because what you saw specifically in the Aston Villa and Man United FA Cup game was a very poor Rashford. First 10 minutes, great. There on afterwards, petulant, body language, world on his shoulders, walking around like he's got impending doom, rather than a very young footballer that's been given universal recognition for his achievements outside of the game, given huge opportunities inside the game, afforded huge luxuries as an individual, but yet walking around as if it is, as I say, impending doom. Look, the challenge for me is the environment right in Man United, is the culture that Rangnick bringing in gonna unwind what I think is 3 years of easy-ozy that's allowed people like Rashford to not develop. I think Rangnick will concentrate a few minds, and maybe Rashford will either be the recipient of a new direction which he benefits from, or one that he falls foul of and finds himself somewhere else. But I think all things being equal, I think Rashford has to look within at himself, because he's playing for arguably, if not the biggest club in the world on paper, one of them. What sort of manager should Everton hire? A proper one. One that's focused on doing a job. Not one that comes and does you a favour. Not one that's been brought in to fire fights. And not one that the owner looks at because once upon a time he was a good manager that won things with the rivals across the city. Everton is a huge football club and has had a huge amount of money spent by Moshiri. Not as much as people think, because he's balanced it off with transfers of Romelu Lukaku at times, but notwithstanding it, still a lot of money. And undeniable, Moshiri moving the stadium will be a great benefit to Everton. But there's not a lot about Everton that's really right at this moment in time. There's not a lot right in their youth development. A few players are coming through, but that's not that many. The wage structure, the transfer fees, the acquisitions from Iwobi to Sigurdsson to how much they paid for other people, and looking at the transfers of Walcott at times when other clubs that they're competing with didn't want these players, Everton suddenly thought they were a solution to their problems. The sporting director, the recruitment of a manager that most of the fans didn't want. None of these are wins. The financial state of Everton. So all of those give you an indication that the thinking isn't really joined up football thinking. Now, I'm not questioning Moshiri's financial acumen because he's made 10 times as much money as I've ever made. But the fact of the matter is he seems to be lacking something in the understanding of the wonderful asset he's got, which is a brilliant football club in Everton. So going back to the question, he's got to get a proper manager in there, a live one that's ready to go, a current one that's capable of building Everton back up again, because this is the job in hand. If you're sixth from bottom in the league, you struggle past Hull in the FA Cup, great, all you have to do is win the game. But Benitez, to me, isn't the answer. Manchester City are a football club that I have a lot of admiration for. I'm not one born out of jealousy or envy. There's always someone bigger and better than you, and I admire people for the standards that they have. I admire people for the integrity. I admire Man City for their performance on the pitch and the beautiful nature of their football. I don't admire certain aspects of their financial landscape. It's got nothing to do with hatred. Every time you criticise a football club, out come a section of their fans suggesting that you hate them. It doesn't evoke that much emotion in me to hate something. To hate something, it's got to really evoke an emotion. If someone asks me a question about Man City, I'll talk about it, and what I'll do is I'll give an honest view. And the honest view is based upon my feelings. It's not hatred, and damn sure isn't jealousy. Why am I jealous of Man City? It's not a club I support. If I was going to be jealous of anyone, I'd be jealous of Steve Parish. He's made hundreds of millions of quid at a football club that I, in effect, rebuilt and funded. So if I was going to be jealous of anyone, it would be him, and I'm not jealous of him. Jealousy isn't part of it. I just don't like certain aspects of it. I don't like the way they've bullied their way around financial fair play. I don't like the way they've spent money in a bundle. But then again, they're not the only one that's done it. Chelsea have done it too, and PSG have done it as well, and I've been equally as critical as them. But when it comes to it, people are very binary. They only hear what they think they hear, which is a negative attitude. They forget the praise. That doesn't suit us. Jordan hates Man City, and he's jealous of them because he criticises them. And Jordan hates Newcastle because it's not to do with jealousy. It's fair game, fair observation, fair views. And when I'm wrong, I'm quite happy to say I'm wrong. And I've been wrong about Guardiola and his lack of regard for the League Cup. When he first came in, he didn't have regard for it, and he goes and wins it for the next 4 years. So no jealousy there whatsoever. Just a little bit of a disdain about some of the Frankenstein aspects of that club that I've remarked on over the years. So that's it for this week. Now don't forget to let me know your views on Liverpool, Rashford and Rafa Benitez. Of course, most importantly, it's a like and subscribe, because apparently we're after 1 million subscribers, and I get a reward for that.